Sometimes I have wild thoughts. My most recent wild thought is what if the 2028 Olympics couldn't be hosted in LA and moved to Asturias? I know it's crazy, right? But think about it. There are lots of reasons that Asturias couldn't host the Olympics, and there's lots of reasons why it could. It'd be a huge shift from the sprawling megacity of LA to misty, emerald green villages and rugged coastline. Instead of palm trees and six-lane freeways, athletes would arrive to winding coastal roads and stone farmhouses and cider bars. No massive new stadium complexes, no Hollywood level spectacle. Imagine athletes walking cobblestone streets from historic hotels, opening ceremonies with gaitas, post-race celebrations involving cider poured from the shoulder. It would be the most nature integrated Olympics in modern times, surfing off the beaches of Salinas, road cycling through Picos de Europa's rowing on the lakes framed by pine forest. If the International Olympic Committee were to announce that Los Angeles could no longer host the 2028 Summer Olympics, the world would likely expect the replacement to be another global capital. Of course, Paris or Tokyo or London or perhaps Madrid, but imagine if the IOC made an unprecedented move and handed the responsibility to the region of Asturias, Spain. What could follow might become one of the most remarkable transformations in modern Olympic history. Asturias is often called Spain's best kept secret, known more for cider and coastal fishing villages than for mega events. Asturias would be the underdog of underdogs, yet that underdog status could become its superpower. The region wouldn't just build stadiums, it might reshape its entire identity for the world stage while staying true to its roots. I know you're already questioning infrastructure. Hosting an event designed for millions of international spectators, thousands of athletes, and an army of support staff would demand a logistical overhaul. Asturias, while modern in some ways, is not built for Olympic-sized crowds. The Asturian government would have to partner with the Spanish national government and the European Union to fast-track transport upgrades. Asturias Airport is a modest regional hub. It could undergo an ambitious expansion to accommodate long-haul flights from all over the world. New terminals might have to be built. Definitely would have to be built. Renfe, Spain's national railway network, could add more high-speed AVE service to Oviedo, Gijón, and Avilés, connecting Asturias to Madrid in under 3 hours. Existing roads like the A66 and the A8 would likely be expanded and reinforced to accommodate the increased car and bus loads. Meanwhile, the port of Gijón could be converted into a secondary point of arrival, welcoming visitors via ferries and cruise liners, and those cruise liners could be repurposed as floating hotels. Unlike major metropolitan Olympic hosts, Asturias could not rely on an urban landscape full of multi-use sports complexes. This isn't a shortcoming. Planners could embrace it as a chance to do something unprecedented, integrate the Olympics with the region's natural beauty. El Molinón Stadium in Gijón, Spain's oldest football stadium, could undergo a renovation to become the central athletics venue. The design would probably preserve the stadium's historic facade, expanding its capacity. I believe there's already a renovation proposal for the stadium in preparation for the FIFA 2030 World Cup. For water sports, Asturias could capitalize on its geographical luck. Embalse de Trasona in Avilés is already a world-class training center for canoeing and rowing. That's where my husband used to train. It could become the official Olympic venue for both of those sports, and Salinas Beach, with its reliable waves, could be selected for Olympic surfing. This would be the first time for games held on mainland Europe. Road cycling and mountain biking events could find a natural home along the winding roads of the mountains of the Picos de Europa, offering athletes breathtaking views, but punishing climbs and descents like La Vuelta race. What else? Traditional Olympic villages are typically high-rise, high-density complexes. They're designed for quick construction and post-game repurposing. Asturias might approach that problem differently. Instead of building from scratch, the region could lean into its historical and cultural assets. Athletes, they could be housed in a combination of renovated paradores and modern natural lodges. And they'd be dotted around Oviedo, Gijón, and Avilés, depending on what sport they're doing. The decision would not only solve accommodations, on challenges, but also immerse athletes in Asturias's history. For the press and technical teams, pop-up modular villages would be constructed on the outskirts of major cities. No Olympic Games are complete without cultural programming. Asturias could seize the chance to introduce its unique heritage to a global audience. The opening and closing ceremonies might balance international expectations with its regional authenticity. The opening ceremony could feature traditional Asturian gaitas and dances like the danza prima, those paired with digital storytelling projected against the backdrop of Picos de Europa. Instead of a single torchbearer, the Olympic flame might be passed along a human chain. It could stretch from the coast to the mountains, symbolizing unity and resilience. Local cuisine would also play a big role. Cider would become an emblem of the games. There would be pouring contests and demonstrations integrated into the public festivities. Visitors, they could sample fabada asturiana, cabrales cheese, and even fresh seafood while enjoying the performances from both local artists and global music icons. Sustainability could become a cornerstone of Asturias's Olympic identity. The region's strong tradition of environmental conservatism would align naturally with the IOC's increasing emphasis on green games. Easily disassemblable temporary venues could be designed and utilized. Solar and wind energy could power many of the sports complexes. Rainwater harvesting could be installed to support the increased water consumption. Each of these tactics, they could really be applied to ensure that once the games are over, Asturias keeps the green in La Costa Verde. Public transportation would be prioritized, of course. Ticketing systems would be integrated across buses, trains, and ferries so that we can minimize car use. The games could leave behind not just new facilities, but a modernized, cleaner, and more efficient infrastructure. Asturias's small population could turn out to be its greatest strength when it comes to community engagement. The games might become a regional project. Citizens across all age groups could volunteer for things like translation, logistics, hospitality, even event management. Schools, they could integrate Olympic history and Asturian culture into their curricula in the years leading up to the games. Locals, they might even open their homes through regulated homestay programs. They'd offer an intimate and affordable option for people visiting. The Olympic flame relay could pass through small towns and villages, turning the entire region into kind of an extended Olympic venue. Asturias' maritime climate would pose a unique challenge. July and August can be both sunny and wet with sudden changes that could complicate outdoor events. Organizers might develop contingency plans for nearly every sport, including flexible scheduling. Another hurdle would be perception. Asturias is largely unknown outside of Spain, especially compared to previous hosts like Tokyo or Rio de Janeiro. A global marketing campaign could rebrand the region as maybe the natural Olympic experience. It would emphasize the landscapes and hospitality and authenticity over glitz and urban spectacle. If the games were to conclude and the Olympic flame were extinguished, Asturias could emerge transformed. The region might not only prove itself capable of hosting a global event, but could do so on its own terms. The improved airport and railway connections could continue to drive tourism. The upgraded stadiums and venues might attract international sporting events. The Olympic Village accommodations could find new life as university housing and just private residences. More importantly, the region's newfound global visibility might translate into sustainable economic growth. Local artisans, food producers, and tour operators could experience a rather big boom, and this could cement Asturias's reputation as a destination for travelers seeking nature and culture. And I'm going to say that word again, authenticity. Okay, this was a hypothetical transformation for the 2028 Olympics. It could offer a new model for the Games. It's one where smaller regions can host world-class events without losing their soul. They can be a celebration of the place and the people and the planet. And in doing so, Asturias could remind the world that sometimes the most memorable experiences don't come from the big cities, rather from the most surprising places. All in all, I actually wouldn't want Asturias to host the Olympics. I'm selfish that way. I like this little piece of heaven tucked away and hidden just as it is. This popped into my mind because a lot of people are reconsidering visiting the US right now. It is possible that as time passes, concern may grow regarding the 2028 Olympics. If you haven't done so already, watch me attempt to be a cooking influencer as I make one of the things I miss eating in the US. Also, subscribe if you haven't already. My goal is to reach 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.